First and foremost, I want to say thank you to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. If it wasn't for him, this would not be possible. Low Nose Boxing. Hit the like button, share the video, leave a comment, subscribe. I want to talk about a fighter that will fight September 14th. I want to talk about a fighter, to me, who truly has the support of the Puerto Rican fighters September 14th. I want to talk about a fighter that will go down in the Hall of Fame, and he's Puerto Rican, and he's fighting September 14th. I want to talk about Danny Swift Garcia. Danny's, first off, shout out to Edgar Berlanga. He got the opportunity to have, hands down, probably the biggest victory in Puerto Rican boxing history. And the reason why I say that is because of the fact that Edgar Berlanga is going to be he is a huge underdog. So that will be huge for Puerto Rican boxing. But I want to talk about a fighter that's already going to go into the Hall of Fame. Danny Garcia, beyond a shadow of a doubt, make no mistake about it, is the last elite Puerto Rican fighter since Miguel Cotto. Now, I know y'all going to say, oh, you made videos about Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson has Puerto Rican blood. He's a Puerto Rican fighter. But Danny Garcia's career is winding down. Shakur Stevenson still has more things to accomplish. And Puerto Ricans, as far as how we carry ourselves, is more of a culture as well. Shakur Stevenson doesn't really carry himself in the culture type of time of Puerto Ricans. But he's a Puerto Rican fighter, make no mistake about it. Danny Garcia, unlike Miguel Cotto, was not being groomed as the next great Puerto Rican fighter. He didn't come out of the Olympics, to my knowledge. He was a decorated amateur, but he did not come out of the Olympics. He was not being groomed. He was not being built up with guys that he was supposed to beat. Danny Garcia was thrown into the fire early in his career, even as a contender, when he took on a former world champion who was a knockout artist, and Kendall Holt. Danny Garcia beat him. He beat Nate Campbell. And when he fought Eric Morales, even though Eric Morales was the older fighter, past his prime, he was a resurgent Eric Morales. It was about Eric Morales. Can Eric Morales beat the young, hungry lion? It wasn't about Danny Garcia beating the old, great Mexican champion. No. Danny Garcia upsetted the apple tree. He beat Eric Morales. And then he took on Amir Khan. Amir Khan was being built as a potential opponent somewhere down the road for Floyd Mayweather Jr. It was a unification bout, but Danny Garcia was a 7-1 underdog, right? Danny Garcia upsetted the apple tree. And from that moment on, that was the birth of Team Garcia, because I remember watching that fight. I was in my cousin Kenny's crib in Scranton, Pennsylvania at the time, watching that fight. And I remember going into that fight, all I kept hearing was Angel Garcia talking his talk, doing the build-up of that fight. And I said, damn, old head's talking crazy. And I really was like, all right, I'm really rooting for Danny big time for this fight. Danny Garcia scored that knockout. Danny Garcia upsetted the apple tree. And then he went on to beat Eric Morales again. And then he went on to beat Zab Judah. And then he went on to beat Lucas Matisse. And then he went on to beat Mauricio Herrera. And then he went on to beat Lamont Peterson. And I could go on and on. Danny Garcia is a Hall of Fame fighter. But the question I have is, when Danny Garcia's career is over, will he go down not just among the best Puerto Ricans of all time, because he will, Will he crack the top 10 in Puerto Rican boxers? And I already know what y'all gonna say. He's not from the island of Puerto Rico. Man, listen, let's stop the nonsense. Puerto Rico is in the United States of America, so we're not carrying it like that no more. Puerto Rico has not had great fighters from the island in quite some time. Hall of Fame worthy, pound for pound worthy. So we're gonna dead that whole from the island, if he's a New York Rican or if he's a Philly Rican. We're not doing that. We're putting them all together right now. So as of right now, I'm gonna give you my current list of top 10 Puerto Rican fighters from top to bottom as of right now. Number 1 on my list, Wilfredo Gomez. Number 2, Felix Tito Trinidad. Number 3, Wilfred Benitez. Number 4, Carlos Ortiz. Number 5, Miguel Cotto. Number 6, Hector Macho Camacho. Number 7, Jose Torres. Number 8, Edwin Chapo Rosario. Number 9, Ivan Iron Boy Calderon. And number 10, Esteban de Jesus. The first man and the only fighter to defeat Roberto Duran at 135 pounds. That's my top 10 pound for pound Puerto Rican champion list. Honorable mention, Wilfredo Vasquez. Honorable mention, Juan Manuel Lopez, otherwise known as Juanma. Puerto Rico has some great fighters. And mind you, Puerto Rico is just a small, tiny island. And for such a small, tiny island, Puerto Rico has rivaled Mexico in the rivalry. Not right now, because Puerto Rico has been on a serious drought. The worst slump ever in Puerto Rican boxing history has occurred after Miguel Cotto's run, with the exception of Danny Swift Garcia. Only the future is going to see what's going to turn out for Edgar Berlanga, El Shakur Stevenson, Xander Zayas, and hopefully Subaru Matias can get himself back together after that loss. But we're going to talk about Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia is a fighter that became victorious in fights as an underdog. As an underdog, Danny Garcia has one of the best resumes in boxing. Danny Garcia is a 2-division world champion, unified at 140 pounds, never ducked no smoke, despite the haters and the trolls calling him Cherry Garcia because he took on a Rob Salka. Sure, Danny Garcia had some questionable performances under his belt, like Mauricio Herrera. I thought Danny won that fight, but it was a close fight. Mind you, Danny Garcia is not a fighter with special effects. He wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the slickest. He wasn't the hardest puncher, but he had a lot of power. Good fundamentals. Underrated defense. A cast iron chin. I'm going to go on the limb to say that Danny Garcia might have the best chin ever in Puerto Rican boxing history. Miguel Cotto has been dropped and rocked numerous times. Tito Trinidad has been dropped numerous times. Wilfredo Benitez has been dropped numerous times. Wilfredo Gomez has been dropped and stopped. Hector Camacho was dropped probably twice, but Camacho's durability was more of his defense, his movement, his craftiness. But Danny Garcia fights in the wheelhouse. Danny Garcia has taken some big, solid shots from Errol Spence, from Keith Thurman, from Lucas Matisse, from Zab Judah, from what's his name? Not Nate Campbell, Kendall Holt. Danny Garcia's chin is proven. He's never been wobbled. And like I said, he's had some big wins, but he had some losses. He lost 3 fights in his career. The Keith Thurman fight was a close fight. I had it for Keith Thurman, but it was a close fight. I scored it 115-113. Sean Porter was a close fight. I actually gave that one to Danny Garcia, 115-113. Errol Spence Jr. was the most convincing loss Danny Garcia suffered, and I gave it to Errol Spence. 8 rounds to 4. But Danny Garcia was never demoralized. He was never dominated. Fast forward, Danny Garcia is taking on Aries Landy Lara. Before we get to that, let me bring up another fun fact why Danny Garcia, to me, is being held so high among Puerto Rican fighters. Puerto Rico versus Mexico has always been a rivalry. Danny Garcia and Felix Trinidad are probably the only 2 Puerto Rican fighters that are actually undefeated in the Mexico-Puerto Rico rivalry. Yes. Fun fact, low nose boxing. You know my gimmick. I gotta go in my historian bag. Wilfredo Gomez beat 2 great Mexicans but lost to Salvador Sanchez. Hector Camacho beat 2 great Mexicans but lost to Chavez. Lost to De La Hoya. Wilfredo Benitez was actually undefeated against Mexicans. I'm gonna give him his due. But Benitez only took on 1, which was Carlos Palomino. Juanma Lopez beat some Mexicans. He beat Daniel Ponce de Leon. He beat Rafael Marquez. But he got crushed twice in Puerto Rico by Orlando Salido. Danny Garcia defeated Eric Morales twice. He knocked out Brandon Rios. He knocked out Adrian Granados. He outboxed Robert Guerrero. And he outclassed Jose Benavidez. Danny Garcia is undefeated against Mexican fighters during the rivalry. So that gives Danny Garcia points. Do I rate Danny Garcia right now among the top 10 Puerto Ricans of all time? Absolutely not. You already saw my rankings. I already gave you my rankings. But if Danny Garcia can pull the upset over Aries Landy Lara, I'm placing Danny Garcia in my top 10 all-time Puerto Rican list. And once again, my list goes such as Wilfredo Gomez, Felix Trinidad, Wilfredo Benitez, Carlos Ortiz, Miguel Cotto, Hector Macho Camacho. And then I said Jose Torres. And then I'm going to have to put Danny Garcia over Edwin Rosario at number 9. And I'm going to have to put Edwin Rosario, I'm going to put Danny Garcia at number 8. Followed by Edwin Rosario. Followed by Ivan Calderon. So with that being said, if Danny Garcia beats Aries Landy Lara Saturday, September 14th, Danny Garcia, for me, will crack the top 10 list of greatest Puerto Rican fighters of all time. Y'all have your opinion. I have mine. I'm Low Nose Boxing. God bless. Hit the like button, share the video, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, Low Nose Boxing. Because, like the shoulder rule, Low Nose Boxing. I'm out.